Hey there. Over the next couple months, I'm going to be running a lot of videos talking about what a bad president Donald Trump is and how he's incapable of doing anything to fix the problems facing this country. But today, I want to talk about something that he very much has done. I am 99% sure that if Donald Trump is reelected, we are going to war with Iran. It's easy to forget with all of the catastrophes Trump has brought us since, but in the beginning of this year, his handlers convinced him to start a war with Iran. This is key. I'm not saying that Trump will start a war with Iran if he is reelected. He already started it. The only thing that has delayed war this long is the patient statesmanship of the regime in Iran. On January 3rd, we assassinated Qasem Soleimani, probably the second most powerful person in Iran, and also probably the guy who did the most to defeat the Islamic State. This is roughly the equivalent of Iran assassinating David Petraeus or Jim Mattis. But not quite. You see, Soleimani is credited by many with saving his country multiple times, not just from the threat of the Islamic State, but also from the world-spanning hyperpower that invaded and occupied the two countries on either side of Iran almost 2 decades ago. To be honest, Generals Petraeus and Mattis haven't really done anything that useful. They've distinguished themselves by being significantly less clownish than the rest of the leadership class that got us into 2 pointless, failed trillion-dollar wars of choice. The real equivalent to what we did to Iran would be them assassinating Dwight D. Eisenhower or Ulysses S. Grant. It is almost certain that Soleimani helped to kill U.S. soldiers in Iraq by funding proxy fighters. After we invaded Iraq, Iran's next-door neighbor, 17 years ago, and declared war on Iran. You do remember the Axis of Evil speech, right? We also know that our Israeli proxies are killing Iranian soldiers in Syria this year. It is also a barely concealed secret that our proxies are conducting terrorist attacks against Iranian civilian infrastructure as we speak. We are not the good guys here. I get that it's satisfying to reach across the world for vengeance and that the killing of Soleimani made Trump look tough to a lot of US voters. But was it smart? Our obsession with this plucky little country that has the same enemies we do is a source of constant amusement to Russia and China. Nothing would make our more serious adversaries happier than the US starting yet another trillion-dollar war in the Middle East. Donald Trump, the candidate, knew this. On the campaign trail back in 2016, he mercilessly mocked Obama and Bush for wasting trillions of dollars on pointless failed wars, and he was absolutely right to do so. I don't think Donald Trump personally wants war with Iran, but everybody he's hired definitely does, as I've been documenting for months now. There seem to be 2 goals here. The official goal, and what looks to be, for most people in the administration, the real goal. Thanks to a few moronic Washington, D.C. think tanks and a monolithically warmongering news media from CNN to Fox News, your average half-informed uncle thinks that the Obama administration's Iran nuclear deal was bad, and that a better deal was somehow possible, and all that was necessary was a real tough guy to get it. This is the official story that Republican congressmen can sell to the half-informed uncles that fund all of their campaigns. Our half-informed uncles don't generally want war, but in their heart of hearts, they just know that Donald Trump can get a better deal than that wimpy black guy. The thing is, if you look at the backgrounds, speeches, and tactics of the folks in the Trump administration, it's clear that for most, the official goal is just a cover. Most of them are working for regime change, and they always have been. Some of these guys really seem to think that the Iranian regime can be overthrown without war, but it's also pretty clear that most of them would be just fine with a much wider war. It's darkly comic that Donald Trump is the only person in his administration who seems to believe that the official goal is possible. It's Trump, so it depends on the day, his mood, and which Fox News show he watched last, but he occasionally seems dumb enough to actually believe that he will produce a lasting deal with Iran. Unfortunately, nobody he has hired has any real interest in that. The Trump administration doesn't have the temperament, the personnel, or the capacity to negotiate a nuclear deal with Iran. The goal is regime change, and it always has been. These guys aren't just angling for war, they've done everything necessary to make it happen. Things may look a little murky now, but 50 years from now, there will not be a historian on this planet that blames Iran for the coming conflagration. The only thing that has delayed war thus far is the restraint exercised by the Iranian government. Iran helped the world dodge a bullet on January 8th when it warned the Iraqi government its reprisals were coming. The Iranians knew the warning would be passed to the United States, allowing all soldiers to take cover before the 2 U.S. bases were hit. Despite the best efforts of CNN and the Washington Post to turn some concussions into war-starting traumatic brain injuries, we were all able to de-escalate. Iran had to respond to preserve its self-respect, but they did so in a way that allowed all of us to avoid war. Amazingly, they are still holding on to their participation in the nuclear agreement that Donald Trump has tried so hard to destroy. But this incredible restraint on the part of the Iranian government in the face of the murder of its heroes and the starvation of its people is only possible because they see the light at the end of the tunnel. The light at the end of the tunnel is Joe Biden. Don't get me wrong, war could still happen. If we get to January 2020 and Biden's people try to dick around over rejoining the nuclear agreement, we could still get that war. But I am very confident that Iran has softened its response to Trump in the hopes of saner U.S. leadership. Biden is a question mark, and Iran is willing to put up with 5 more months of suffering to get the answer to that question. They are not willing to put up with 4 more years of suffering. Trump's henchmen have repeatedly bet on the idea that merciless brutalizing of the Iranian people will convince them to change governments. Despite years of failure, that policy will not change under this U.S. regime. So if Donald Trump wins on November 3rd, you can probably expect our next trillion-dollar disaster to get started by the end of the year. It's a war that the United States could win, maybe, but in the long run, I would expect our victory to turn to ash, the same way the early wins in Iraq and Afghanistan did. I've already gamed out the war between Iran and the United States in another video, and I'll link it at the end of this one. It would be a completely pointless, murderously stupid war, and it's almost inevitable if Trump is re-elected. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and on either Thursday or Sunday, I'm not quite sure when yet, we will be doing our next patrons-only live newscast. If you want to join me and 10 to 15 other fantastically intelligent people to discuss the issues of the day, click on the Patreon link here to check out my crowdfunding thing. Thanks.